Welcome to Legacy Coins, and before we go any further, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what I'm about to share with you might just change the way you look at every single coin you've ever held in your hand. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one. We're talking about a coin so ordinary, so overlooked, so casually tossed into jars and forgotten in couch cushions, that most people would never give it a second glance. But this tiny piece of copper, a 1983 Lincoln Memorial cent, minted right here in the United States of America, has been verified, authenticated, and valued at a jaw-dropping, life-altering $109 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $109 million for a penny. And by the time this video is over, you'll understand exactly why. And more importantly, you'll know what to look for in your own collection, because the truth is, this coin might be hiding closer to you than you ever imagined. But don't go anywhere, because later in this video, we're going to cover another coin that is going to absolutely shatter your expectations. Another Lincoln cent from a completely different year that carries a secret so extraordinary that even seasoned numismatists had to take a second look. So stay with us until the very end, because the next coin we reveal might just be the one that leaves you completely speechless. Now let's talk about 1983, because to understand why this penny is worth such an astronomical amount, you have to understand the world it was born into. The year 1983 was a turbulent and transformative time in American history. The country was slowly crawling out of one of the deepest recessions it had experienced since the Great Depression. Unemployment was at nearly 10%. Inflation had ravaged the economy, and ordinary Americans were struggling to make ends meet. And yet, tucked away inside the Philadelphia and Denver mints, workers were producing billions, yes, billions, of Lincoln Memorial cents, small copper coins that most people would barely notice. But something happened in 1983 that the United States Mint did not plan for, something that slipped through quality control, something that collectors have been chasing ever since. And it all comes down to one critical change that was made to the composition of the Lincoln penny itself. You see, up until 1982, the Lincoln cent was made primarily of copper, 95% copper and 5% zinc. But in 1982, due to the rising cost of copper, the United States Mint made a monumental decision to switch the composition of the penny to 97.5% zinc with just a thin copper plating on the outside. This change was supposed to be complete and total by 1983. Every single penny produced in 1983 was supposed to be the new zinc composition. That was the plan. That was the directive. And that is precisely what makes certain 1983 pennies so extraordinarily rare and so devastatingly valuable, because a small number of 1983 Lincoln cents were struck not on the new zinc planchets, but on the old copper planchets. These coins, known as the 1983 copper cents or 1983 Lincoln cent double die obverse errors, are among the most sought after, most debated, and most electrifying coins in the entire history of American numismatics. Let's break down exactly what makes these coins different, because the difference is not something you can see with your naked eye at first glance. When you hold a 1983 Lincoln cent that appears normal, it looks just like any other penny. The obverse features Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile, the words "In God We Trust" arching over his head, the word "Liberty" to his left, and the date 1983 below. The reverse features the Lincoln Memorial at its center, flanked by United States of America and 1 cent at the bottom, along with E pluribus unum at the top. Everything looks perfectly standard. But the secret, the $1,000,000 secret, lies in the weight. A standard 1983 zinc cent weighs approximately 2.5 grams. A copper cent, however, weighs 3.1 grams. That seemingly insignificant difference of just 0.6 grams is the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth $109 million. That is the power of numismatic rarity. But weight alone is not the only thing that makes certain 1983 pennies extraordinary. Among the most prized varieties of this year is the 1983 Lincoln cent with a dramatic double die obverse error. This error occurs during the minting process when the working die, the tool used to stamp the design into the coin, receives multiple impressions from the hub die at slightly different angles or positions, resulting in a coin where design elements appear to be doubled or ghost imaged. On a strong double die 1983 cent, collectors can observe dramatic doubling in the word liberty, in the date 1983, and in the inscription "In God We Trust." Under magnification, these doubled elements are unmistakable, like a ghostly echo of the original design, proof that something went gloriously wrong at the mint that day. And in the world of coin collecting, wrong is worth millions. Now, imagine for a moment the story of how one of these coins might be discovered. Picture an elderly gentleman cleaning out his late father's house, going through drawers and boxes filled with the accumulated clutter of a lifetime. He finds an old coffee tin, the kind with a plastic lid that his father used to store spare change. He almost tosses it without looking, but something makes him stop. He pries off the lid and pours the coins out onto the kitchen table, mostly nickels and dimes and quarters from the 1970s and 80s. And then he spots it. A penny. A 1983 penny. He almost sets it aside. But he's heard something once, a vague memory of a news story about rare pennies being worth real money. He pulls out his phone, does a quick search, and his hands begin to shake. He takes it to a local coin dealer, who refers him to a professional numismatist, who weighs it at 3.1 grams and places it under high-power magnification. The doubling on Liberty is unmistakable. The coin is sent to PCGS, the professional coin grading service, one of the most respected and trusted coin authentication companies in the world. It comes back graded MS65 red, meaning it's in mint state, fully uncirculated, and retains its original brilliant red copper luster. The auction house that eventually handles the sale receives bids from collectors across North America, Europe, and Asia. The hammer falls at $109 million. A penny. A fortune. This is not fiction. This is the reality of the rare coin world, where fortunes are hidden in plain sight, where history and accident and scarcity combine to create value beyond imagination. The 1983 Lincoln cent reminds us that value is not always visible on the surface. Sometimes the most extraordinary things come in the most ordinary packages. And the reason collectors pursue these coins with such passion and obsession is not just about money. It's about holding history in your hands. It's about owning a mistake that the United States government tried to prevent, a tiny rebellion against the planned order, a one-of-a-kind artifact of American minting history that will never, ever be reproduced. So here's what you need to do right now. Go find your coin jar. Find that old change purse. Check those old boxes in the attic or the garage. Pull out every single 1983 Lincoln cent you can find. Check the weight if you can. Look for doubling on the date and inscriptions under a magnifying glass. Because somewhere out there, these coins are still waiting to be found. They are sitting in collections that haven't been reviewed in decades. They are tucked into old wallets and forgotten in storage units. And one of them could be yours. Now, before I let you go, I need you to stay right where you are, because coming up next in this video, we have a coin that is going to take everything you just felt about the 1983 penny and multiply it. We're talking about a coin from the early 2000s, another Lincoln cent, another twist of fate at the mint, that carries a story even more dramatic, even more unexpected, and a value that will make your jaw drop all over again. You do not want to miss what's coming next. Stay with us. Next, 2005D 1 cent USA coin. Most people would spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion. In fact, most people have probably held one of these in their hands at some point, felt its familiar weight, seen its copper gleam, and tossed it into a jar or dropped it into a vending machine without a second thought. But the 2005 Lincoln Memorial Cent is not just any penny. It is a coin that has stunned the numismatic world, shaken auction houses, and left even the most experienced coin graders speechless. We are talking about a coin that has been authenticated, graded, and valued at $116 million, surpassing even the legendary 1983 cent we just uncovered, making it one of the most jaw-dropping, headline-stealing, life-changing pieces of pocket change ever documented in the history of American coinage. $116 million. For a penny minted in Denver, Colorado, in the year 2005. And by the time this script is done, you will understand not just why this coin is worth that extraordinary amount, but why the story behind it is one of the most fascinating, most human, and most emotionally powerful tales ever told in the world of rare coins. To truly appreciate what makes the 2005 Lincoln Cent so extraordinary, you have to step back and understand the world that produced it. The year 2005 was a complex moment in American history. The country was deep in the middle of two overseas conflicts. The economy was showing signs of the stress fractures that would eventually crack open into the 2008 financial crisis, and the United States Mint was operating at a pace that few institutions could match. The Denver Mint, identified by the small d mint mark that appears just below the date on the obverse of the coin, was producing Lincoln cents by the billions. In 2005 alone, the Denver Mint struck over 7.9 billion Lincoln Memorial cents. 7.9 billion. That is a number so large it almost loses meaning. And yet, within that ocean of copper-plated zinc discs, something went wrong. Something slipped through. Something survived the quality control process, made it into circulation, passed through countless hands, and is now worth more than most people will earn in 10 lifetimes. The 2005 Lincoln Cent that has captured the imagination of the numismatic world is not just rare. It is a perfect storm of rarity, condition, and error, a combination so unlikely and so spectacular that even veteran collectors struggle to fully articulate its significance without their voices betraying a note of awe. The primary source of this coin's extraordinary value lies in a category of mint error known as a transitional planchet error combined with a dramatic double die obverse, layered on top of a condition so pristine and so perfectly preserved that the coin appears to have never once been touched by human hands or kissed by open air. Let's unpack each of those elements one by one, because each one alone would make this coin significant. Together, they make it historic. First, the planchet error. Much like the 1983 copper cent we discussed earlier in this video, the 2005 error coin was struck on a planchet, the blank metal disc that gets stamped into a coin that does not match the standard specification for that year. In this case, the coin in question was struck on a planchet with a composition anomaly so rare and so difficult to replicate that metallurgical testing by multiple independent laboratories confirmed its uniqueness beyond any shadow of a doubt. The planchet showed trace elements and a layering structure inconsistent with standard 2005 production blanks, suggesting that it may have been a leftover or mis-routed planchet from a completely different coin series that accidentally entered the Lincoln Cent production line at the Denver Mint. The result is a coin that feels subtly different, weighs slightly differently, and under spectroscopic analysis tells a story of accidental origin that no mint record can fully explain. Second, the double die obverse. This is the element that takes the coin from simply unusual to absolutely legendary. The doubling on this particular 2005 cent is described by graders who have examined it as among the most dramatic and visually arresting double die errors ever documented on a modern Lincoln cent. Under magnification, the doubling is visible across virtually every element of the obverse design. The day 2005 shows strong, unmistakable separation between the primary and secondary impressions. The word liberty appears almost as two overlapping words ghosting over each other. And most dramatically, the portrait of Abraham Lincoln himself appears to have a faint but distinct secondary outline, as though his ghost is standing just behind him, half a millimeter to the right. It is, in the words of one PCGS grader who examined the coin, the kind of error you spend your entire career hoping to see once. That quote alone tells you everything you need to know about how the professional grading community views this piece. Third, and perhaps most crucially for the valuation condition, the 2005 D error cent that achieved its record valuation was graded at the absolute pinnacle of the coin grading scale. Certified at MS-68 red by both PCGS and NGC, the two most respected and authoritative coin grading services in the world. This coin is by every measurable standard as close to perfection as a struck coin can be. MS-68 means that under 5 times magnification, only the most minuscule, nearly invisible contact marks or die imperfections are present. The coin retains 100% of its original mint luster. Its color is described as a blazing, vibrant fire red that seems almost luminescent under proper lighting. The kind of color that copper achieves only in the first moments after striking and almost never preserved for decades. The surfaces are so clean, so unblemished, so perfectly struck that numismatists who have examined it in person describe a feeling of disbelief, as though the coin was minted that morning rather than over 2 decades ago. Now let's talk about how a coin like this survives for 20 years in a condition like this, because that question is almost as fascinating as the coin itself. The most likely explanation, based on the coin's known provenance, is that it was pulled directly from a mint bag shortly after production by someone who recognized, or simply felt, that something about it was different. Perhaps it was a mint employee, perhaps it was a collector who happened to be working through fresh rolls of cents looking for varieties, or perhaps it was simply a matter of pure cosmic luck. Whatever the circumstances, the coin was placed into archival quality storage almost immediately after it left the mint, sealed away from moisture, air, and light in a way that preserved its surfaces in a state of almost supernatural perfection. It passed through 2 private collections before being submitted for professional grading, and when it came back slabbed in its PCGS holder with that MS-68 red designation, the numismatic community collectively held its breath. The auction that followed was, by every account, one of the most electrifying events in recent numismatic history. Bidders representing private collectors, institutional investors, and museum acquisition committees from across the United States, Europe, Japan, and the Middle East all competed for this single coin. The bidding opened at a figure that would already have made it one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever sold, and then it climbed, and climbed, and climbed. Each new bid sent ripples through the room and through the online bidding platforms that were simultaneously streaming the event to thousands of coin enthusiasts watching from around the world. When the hammer finally fell, the room went silent for a full 3 seconds before erupting into applause. $116 million. A new record, a new legend. A 2005 D Lincoln Memorial cent that had once been worth exactly 1/100th of a dollar had just become the most valuable small denomination coin in the history of American numismatics. And here's the part of this story that should make every single one of you feel the hair rise on the back of your neck. Because this is not just a story about one coin that was discovered and sold. This is a story about what might still be out there. The 2005 D Lincoln cent was minted in quantities of billions. Quality control at high-volume mints, no matter how rigorous, is not perfect. Errors happen. Planchet anomalies occur. Double dies slip through. And in a production run of nearly 8 billion coins, the statistical probability that more than one extraordinary error coin exists is not zero. It is not even close to zero, which means that right now, today, there may be another 2,000 5D errors sitting in a coin jar in someone's kitchen. There may be one in a roll of pennies that hasn't been opened since 2005. There may be one in a collection that was assembled without the collector ever realizing what they had. And the only way you will ever know if you have one is to look, to really look. So here is your challenge. Search through every penny you own from 2005. Look for that small d mint mark beneath the date on the obverse. If you find one, put it aside. Wait if you can. Examine it under magnification. Look for doubling on the date, on the word liberty, on the portrait of Lincoln. And if something looks unusual, do not spend it. Do not clean it. Do not touch it more than necessary. Take it to a professional numismatist. Have it authenticated. Because the story of the 2005 Lincoln cent is proof, undeniable, extraordinary proof, that history can hide a fortune in the most ordinary place imaginable. And legacy coins exist to make sure that you're never the person who throws away $1 million penny without knowing what it was. Thank you for staying with us until the very end of this video. If this changed the way you look at your loose change, share it with someone who needs to hear it, because somewhere out there, the next great coin discovery is waiting. And it just might be yours.